So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And I just watched Planet of the Humans. It's by Jeff Gibbs, executive produced by Michael Moore. I saw an article for it in Forbes, on Forbes' website. And I just thought, what the hell is Michael Moore doing? When I read the article. Because it was obviously some kind of person who was very pro fossil fuels that wrote the article, and they were bending things in the film to suit what they wanted to say. Like they were talking about the film expressed, or it talked about the debunked Malthusian theory that there was going to be overpopulation and famines and wars and all that stuff by there's someone named Malthus. I can't remember what his line of work was or his designation or degree, but basically his idea was that and this was before a lot of the industrialized age. He was saying that the planet couldn't support where population growth was heading, and we were going to end up in dire straits. I guess there was going to be a population collapse and huge calamity with respect to humans. It didn't happen because of oil, basically. That's not what other people will tell you. They'll tell you that it didn't happen because of fertilizers and because of technology and because of all of these different things that we were able to use to dodge the bullet and get around what was going to happen. But I'm going to say that it's just oil. If we didn't have the resources to do that, it most certainly would have happened. It's happened, over the ages to many, many different civilizations, and it was obviously going to happen to us. It's just that we had access to an energy source that took millions and millions of years to store up oil, and we were able to use that to power our way past. Yes, there was technology, but it was not going to work based running off of wood. It was not going to work based running off of sperm whale oil, because we hunted them almost to extinction. It was not going to work based on anything except coal and oil, and we had that, so we were able to muscle past what was inevitable. The idea that it is completely debunked, though, is kind of ridiculous, because there is a point at which you can't have any more humans on a planet. So we just postponed it. So the article saying that it was debunked is kind of silly. I think they were also claiming in the article that we would have peak oil at some point, or we were running out of oil. And when in the article they were saying we would probably have oil for hundreds of years. That was what I was thinking, but when I looked it up now, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing 50 years in some places. I'm seeing 100 years of cold in some places. I don't know. We'll see. Even with shale, shale is not going to last like 50 years. I don't think it's going to last that length of time, especially as the techniques that they're using, they're running up against some roadblocks to how much oil that they can get out for a certain amount of effort. Anyway, straight to the film. The film, I felt, I agree with it in some way, in that it's saying that, we cannot have an infinite number of human beings living on the planet. That's not going to work. Aside from the fact that there's not enough room for us to all fit on the land, there's not enough place for us to grow food to fit on the land. Some of the things that they did mention were things that I already discovered for myself, like biomass, or making ethanol from corn or from sugarcane to power cars and so on, without adjusting our demand for things. It's not going to work. It doesn't work because, number one, photosynthesis is really inefficient in being able to use the energy that shines on a leaf. It's supposed to maybe like 2% of the energy that shines on a leaf is turned into something that we can use, carbohydrates, let's say, or wood that can be burned or something like that. Compared to solar a solar panel or something, which is supposed to be, I think what we're getting at right now is 20 something percent of the energy can be turned into electricity. There's that. But yeah, basically, in order to sustain our lifestyle, there's not enough land on the planet to grow enough corn or sugarcane to create the ethanol that we need to keep pace with our demands. And of course not, because we have adopted a lifestyle that's based on burning energy that took millions, if not billions of years to be stored up. Oil took however long to reach that point in order to be stored up. So if we are running through it at an accelerated rate, of course, these simple wood and corn and whatever else is not going to be enough, especially not enough to feed us and at the same time to give us the electricity that we need. So the overall point of the show, I agree with. They're saying kind of like, in a way, down with solar, because solar, the ingredients that make up solar panels and any kind of energy for that matter, it's more industrialization is what they're saying. For us to not modify our consumption and just think we can continue to increasingly consume energy and just use solar instead of oil is ridiculous. At some point, even if the mining of quartz is what they're saying to produce solar panels, even if that were clean, I don't know how clean it could be, but the mining of mica, and apparently you need coal. I was not aware that you needed coal in order to make solar panels, but it is part of the feedstock that you need to create a solar panel. And as we're talking about that, I felt slightly frustrated though with the ideas that they were putting forward, in that anything that was supposed to be renewable, they were like dragging out the fact that it had any ties whatsoever to oil. So let's say, for example, with respect to biomass, and biomass, yes, whether it's you're making ethanol, whether you're making alcohol, well, that's the same thing. If you're making ethanol, or whether you're making diesel, whatever it is that you're making, you're going to have to deal with that 2% of energy that photosynthesis allows us to go with. It's either the 2%, or we're going to have to go with solar panels. And the solar panels, of course, use coal at least to be manufactured, and they only lasted 25 years. But I thought it was a little bit disingenuous. Even though I agreed with the overall point of the documentary, I really found it a little bit, the word I want to use is disgusting, that they would say something like, okay, yeah, well, this plant runs on wood, but the trucks that bring it in, they run on gas, or the steel that they use in wind turbines, that's made in gas-fueled industry. Or I'm kind of stumbling a little bit or for example, they were saying that instead of using coal plants, we're using more gas, as in natural gas, and that's not renewable. I felt a little bit disgusted with the fact that, yes, everything runs on oil now. So if you're trying to change over to renewables, I don't know how you expect to find a system that is not some way touched by fossil fuels. And that constant ragging on anything that had any connection to fossil fuels kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I thought that it was, like I said, disingenuous, because there's nothing else that we really run off of now for the most part. But there were some revelations. For example, they were saying that Germany, which is supposed to be running on solar power, is mainly being run on biomass, meaning they're burning stuff. And of course, yes, trees can grow back, but they're going to take however long to grow back. And if you are running and you're using energy at an unsustainable pace, we don't have enough space to grow back these trees fast enough to keep going at the pace that we're already going. You know, every year, I don't know how many million barrels of oil we use a year, but that amount of oil would probably never have been that energy could never have been created using for the photosynthesis in a year. You know, we are living more than a year's worth of energy, at least when you're talking about photosynthesis. And I can't believe I keep stumbling over this, but it is what it is. What I feel would have made more sense, but I guess it wouldn't have had the same impact. And I guess if you are going for impact, like, you know, in comic books, if you ever read a comic book, you don't draw a comic book where the motion is halfway through. You draw where the guy has extended his arm as all the way that he can go, you know? So I guess it's the same thing when you're doing a movie. You're not going to talk in a way where the guy is half punching. You're going to go maybe to the extent that you're exaggerating a bit. Like I said, in terms of every last way that a renewable energy source is connected to non-renewables or fossil fuels, you look and weasel out that thing. And you basically, I suppose, if it is a movie, and I don't know that it's a movie, I don't know that I want to keep calling it a movie, because movies aren't real. You know, when you punch a guy and you knock him through a wall, you don't just stand up there. That's not real life. You know, it's about equal and opposite forces. So I don't think that they should actually take that particular license. But anyway, the point is, yes, gas is probably a lot better than coal in terms of mining it anyway. There is no people's probably not going to lose their lives as much when you're mining or when you collect gas from a well, as opposed to if you are digging for coal. In terms of the sulfur and whatever, you know, bad byproducts that can occur from burning coal, it's not as bad. So for me to just come out and say in a way, oh yeah, gas is bad, and then like electric cars are bad. Hello, it depends on where you got the energy from. And even solar, I don't even know what the end of what they're saying is. Obviously, and for me personally, biomass has never been, well, I don't want to say never been, until I read about it and I understood how photosynthesis works and the amount of land we would need to grow the things to run off of that was not feasible. I've known that for quite a long time, so maybe this is a revelation for some people, but I've known about it for a really long time, so I would never have agreed with it. And I can easily go into the movie and say, yeah, biomass is a bad idea. But to also piss on solar and to piss on wind and every other renewable, so what are you saying? Should we just remain on fossil fuels and we don't really need to move off of that because we can just stay on that and just consume less? That's not what the scientists are telling us with respect to CO2. You know, and even if it does take a certain amount of coal in order to initially make a solar panel, that amount of coal is not being used year after year after year. It's a one and done. You put it and you make a solar panel. And after that, as long as you can get energy from the solar panel, and now next step is, let's try to figure out how to recycle these solar panels. Right now the problem is CO2 in the atmosphere. Okay? The problem is not, what are those ponds again? Basically they're ponds that you put chemicals in. You know, if you're making lithium, you've mined lithium, you're going to end up with bad chemicals that you need to store the stuff away from people in. And usually they don't have any real way of getting rid of it. They just leave it in a pond somewhere, to the open air for birds and stuff, waterfowl to land on and die. But every other way is going to lead to a problem. All right? At least with renewables, there's less CO2 involved. So I don't know what the point of messing all on renewables aside from biomass is. There's no point to that. CO2 is going to make the world warm up to a point where we can't stop it anymore. So there's no point really in just messing over everything. Anyway, for any of you guys watching, planning on watching this thing, there are a couple of scenes at the end that make you think like, what the hell? So just steel yourself for the last 10 minutes of this thing, and the real last 10 minutes of it is a bunch of credits. So as you see it getting close to there, just steel yourself for some kind of horrific images. There's not a lot of blood involved, but just some things that are just ugh. So anyway guys, wish me luck. So you can like or unlike, you can comment, subscribe and or share. Peace.